Ready.
Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's having a nice Tuesday afternoon and enjoying some of this heat that we're having in Southern California today. So at this time, I would like to go ahead and call to order our Paramount City Council meeting for September 21st. If I can go ahead and get a roll call of council members, please.
Councilmember Aguayo.
Here.
Councilmember Guillen.
Here.
Councilmember Lemons.
Here.
Vice Mayor Quer-Stallings.
Here.
Mayor Olmos.
I'm here. Okay, we'll go ahead and start off with City Council public comment updates, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. We do have a couple from the September 7th, 2021 council meeting. The first one was from Mr. Abelardo Jacobo, and his concern was for a driveway being constructed as part of a commercial development next to his property. And the concern was that he said it was closer to his property than what was explained to him by staff. Assistant City Manager Andrew Villalpando emailed Mr. Jacobo on September 8th to follow up with his concern. In the email, Andrew explained that when he and Planning Director John Carver last met with them on July the 15th, it was communicated that the driveway was approved to be constructed 60 feet from his home and about 49 feet from his property line. The distance between his home and the market's proposed driveway has not changed since then. The next commenter was Ms. Abigail Torres. She was concerned about vehicles on her block that were double parked blocking the lane of traffic as well as her driveway, and that the Sheriff's Department takes at least 30 to 45 minutes to respond when she calls for service for parking calls. Public Safety Director Adriana Lopez explained that a letter was sent to all the residents in the neighborhood to warn of illegal parking violations, and Ms. Lopez also indicated that the department will resume its after-hours parking enforcement with non-sworn officers as well. We also explained staff is also aware of Ms. Torres' complaints and encouraged her to call the Paramount Station or the Lakewood Sheriff's Station to report illegally parked cars. Additionally, Ms. Torres met with Lieutenant Omar Camacho immediately following her comments, and Ms. Torres explained to Lieutenant Camacho that she had not submitted a call for service on that evening. The last commenter to reply to was Ms. Tanya Del Carmen, and Ms. Del Carmen was concerned for intersection takeovers and vehicles performing burnouts, donuts, and other driving stunts, and this was in the intersection of Jefferson and Colorado. The follow-up was that Lieutenant Camacho addressed the council regarding the overall situation that we're experiencing right now of street takeovers, and as well as not only in Paramount but in the region. Law enforcement agencies across the region are working very diligently to curb this activity. Lieutenant Camacho also explained that in many occurrences of street takeovers, the deputies are actually apprehending violators some distance away from the scene of the crime, and residents may not always witness their capture. Public Safety Director Adriana Lopez encouraged residents to continue to call the Sheriff's Station to report these incidents. And that concludes the City Council public comment updates for September the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Okay, with that, we will go ahead and move into our public comment section.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have 3 speakers. The first one is by telephone, and it's from Mr. Alejandro Yanez. Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Give me 1 second while I get the phone call on the line.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Yanez. This is the City of Paramount calling regarding your request for public comment. You're being broadcast live to the City Council, and your 3 minutes will start now.
Buenas tardes. En caso de que estamos reconociendo el mes de los mexicanos, la República Mexicana, quisiera hablar en español para que me entiendan, porque conozco que hay unas cosas que la ciudad no está haciendo en verdad de lo que está pasando, lo que está ocurriendo dentro de nuestra ciudad. Hay mucha hipocresía. Sabemos bien que el director de la comunidad los ha echado mal habladas, los habla mal de los otros. Y cuando uno habla mal de ellos, se enojan. Ya pueden entender lo que es insultar a uno,
Mr.
vivir en
Yanes,
esta ciudad, cuando
Mr.
uno le está hablando de las cosas que está diciendo mal de uno.
Señor Yanes,
¿Sí me entiende?
¿puedes parar por un momento, por favor? Do we need a translator?
claro.
Do we need a translator for Mr. Yanes, or?
It's usually what we do, but it's up to the mayor if you'd like.
Mr. Yanes, since you're speaking in Spanish, can we go ahead and get you a translator so everybody can understand you? Would you be okay with
Sí,
that?
claro.
Qué bueno,
Sí, claro.
gracias. All right, we need a translator, por favor. Give us a minute, Mr. Yanes, as we set up really quick, okay?
Sí, claro, no hay molestia. Mande.
Estoy listo cuando usted quiera empezar. ¿Puede empezar?
Sí, me van a volver a recargar mi tiempo.
Are you still going to give me the same time?
Quiero
Mr.
pasar
Yanes.
los 3 minutos.
Yes,
Like
you will
3
start
minutes?
at 3 minutes. Mr. Yanes, you will start at 3 minutes. You will be given 3
Sí,
minutes to
señor
speak.
Yanes, le vamos a otorgar todo su tiempo completo, los 3 minutos. Continúe, por favor.
Sí, está bien, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Quiero explicar que
I'd like to
en
explain
la
to you
ciudad, que yo he estado viviendo en esta ciudad
that I've been
48
living in
años,
this city for
y
40
vivir en
years.
esta ciudad por tantos años,
I've been living so
nunca
many
hemos
years in the
sentido
city. It doesn't make sense.
faltado de respeto cuando los están
lack of
llamando a la
respect.
gente que trabaja para esta ciudad,
Burning the
cuando
people that
nos
working
andan
for the
llamando
city,
mojados y
you call
o
in
sea,
the wetbacks.
hablan mal de los otros, sí,
They talk bad about
y
us.
cuando los otros, mande,
Y cuando usted
y
qué?
cuando nosotros hablamos mal
But
de
when
los
we
que
talk
los están
bad
insultando,
about you,
no está
insulting,
cargado en las cosas igual, o sea,
you don't
no
carry
las
the
tratan
things the same
igual,
way.
esconden la verdad,
You hide the
ponen las
truth.
palabras que no son lo que ocurrió.
Words, they're not
Saben
really
bien
the words.
que la persona que es el director de la comunidad
Person, the director of
los
the community,
insultó,
insulted me.
hizo unas cosas
He
bien
did-
malas contra
did something
la comunidad.
really
Y
something
cómo
really
él
bad
va
against the
a poder
community.
representar la comunidad,
How
ni
is he going to
siquiera
represent the community?
puede entender lo que yo le estoy explicando ahorita.
Understand the same
Yo
things that I'm
vivo
explaining
aquí.
to you. I live
Yo no
here.
voy a otra ciudad a jugar
Go to another
deportes
city to
o
play
buscar
sports,
donde voy a
or to
compartir con mi
look where
comunidad.
I'm gonna share
La gente
something
que
with
habla
my
igual que
community.
yo, que los entendemos,
And me, that
que
we
los podemos
understand each
explicar
other.
uno al otro. Hey, vente, vamos
We
a
can
jugar,
help and need
a
each other.
jugar juntos.
Let's go play together.
No hay que creer que la persona que está
don't have
responsable
to see that
de
the
los
person
parques
that's in
pueda
charge of
poder
the parks
entender cómo se siente ir a
be able to
jugar, a
understand
compartir
and how do
la
you feel
comunidad.
to go and
No
share in
sabe
your
porque él
community.
ya los ha insultado.
Because
Él
why
es
you
el
have
tipo que
insulting
son
us?
bien racistas. Se esconden en su posición
Hide
porque
yourself in your
él
positions,
piensa
behind your
que ese
positions.
título le va a dar la libertad de insultar y no es así
The
la cosa.
freedom to insult
La
me.
cosa es para que ustedes
thing is
respeten
that
y sea un ejemplo para
for
la
you to
comunidad.
be and
Que
you
el
should be an
racismo
example for the
y el discriminación
racism,
no ha de vivir en la
discrimination.
comunidad.
There's no room in the community.
Y es lo malo, es por eso
That's
que
bad,
hay
it's bad.
distancia entre la comunidad. Por
Distance
eso no los
away from the
unimos,
community.
porque sabemos que hay gente
Because
dentro de la
we know
ciudad
the
que los ha
people
echado
and the
la
city
tierra en decir cosas malas
to
y
say
quieren que
things
nosotros
bad.
volvamos para atrás a la comunidad y
And we
ser bien
want to
compartidos
give this
con
back to
todos.
the community and
Sí,
share
sí,
with
los
them.
insultaron, los llamaron
What gives you the right to
drogaditos y
insult us,
malandrices
to call us
y
drug
faltamos el
addicts,
respeto a las mujeres
and
y
we
luego
lack
quieren
and
que vayan para
respect the
atrás
women.
a compartir y a ser hermanos. No,
We can
eso
share
no
to
es
do
así
bad
porque
things.
ya
No,
estamos
that's not right, brother. That's not
insultados.
right.
Así es que pongan para atrás nuestras canchas. Ahí es
So,
donde nosotros jugamos.
help us.
Es
Help
nuestro
us
deporte.
playing to a
No
sport.
les hemos hecho nada mal. En 11 años que
Haven't
yo he
done
pedido
anything
para
bad.
que los pongan para atrás nuestros partidos, canchas,
With our-
han
Mr. Yanes,
han
you have
gastado
20
más tiempo en
seconds left.
decir que no las vamos a
Tiene
poner.
19 segundos, señor Yanes, para terminar.
Pues muchas gracias por su tiempo.
Well, thank you for your time.
Espero que vayan a poner más tiempo en lo que traté de
I hope
explicar
you
en
put
estos
more
3
time for the
minutos.
time that I was
Porque
missing.
en 11 años ya vale.
Because it's
Ya
time is
basta. Pongan nuestras canchas.
enough. Give us some courts to play.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yanes, for your time and your comment. Thank you for your interpretation. I know that was last minute, but I am gonna make one comment after this, and we've heard, some of these calls come in, and I'm gonna say it, at any time, all time, the city does not condone any type of racism in any form. And I think I'm gonna look at my colleagues. I know you guys feel the exact same way. A lot of us were born and raised in this community, working with staff for quite some time. So again, thank you, Mr. Yanes, for your opinions tonight and your comments. We have another caller?
Yes, we actually have two in person, Madam Mayor. Our next speaker is Mr. Abelardo Jacobo. Mr. Jacobo?
Good evening, City Council, everybody. Regarding on the updated version of Andrews, first of all, it was never stated during the meeting we had prior to that back in June 8th, I believe the meeting was. And I have a video of it, of what you stated. It was 60 feet away from my property, not 48 feet or 49 feet from the structure itself. Who measures from the structure? When you're measuring properties, it's property line to property line. That's the way it's measured, not based on where the structure is located. So based on that, if you're gonna measure from my structure where it's at, of course, it's gonna get closer to my property. You stated 60 feet. That's one. During that same meeting, I recall I was considered an anomaly to what the city is doing. I don't know if I should take it as a compliment or an insult. All the stuff that you guys not even notifying residents regarding this project, or any project you do, because you don't have to notify anybody once you go into development review. That's one. I'll show you an image of what a property looks like on Boulevard that's next to the laundromat. You tell me if my property isn't going to get devalued based on that. This is why it's so important to notify residents regarding the lines and everybody in general. So if you allow me to play the video based on what you said during that meeting, I'd be more than honored to show you what you guys all stated and what your concern was as well.
They concluded that the driveway on Elberg was recommended, and the driveway on Downey was recommended also.
Right, but it was recommended for the flow of traffic, but how does that show that it's, you can't determine which way people will ingress and egress from a location. I mean, it is going to increase the traffic on their street, no doubt.
Exactly.
And my concern is there any other place to move that driveway? Because 60 feet isn't very far.
60 feet.
No, the footprint of the building would have to be reconfigured to close off that driveway.
I'd be concerned if I were him.
Donna, I have a question.
Yes.
The entrance of the commercial building, would it be facing Downey Avenue?
Yes.
Like, I call it the Gillen Market.
Yes.
Okay, don't call it that, please.
I know, but I mean, that's how I grew up.
Okay,
It's a
thank
few
you for
more
your time.
seconds. If you allow me a few more seconds.
Also, I had a concern dropping off my granddaughter at senior campus. So they usually come down.
So basically, if you listen to the recording, you state in this video, it's 60 feet from the property. You don't even know what the property line is yet. Is that I brought it to your attention during that meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobo. I appreciate, we have to stick to the 3-minute rule. I appreciate you coming in and giving us your comments tonight. And
last-
maybe, go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead,
sorry,
please.
Madam Mayor. Our last comment card is from Ms. Abigail Torres.
Good evening, Councilman. Once again, I come because of the patrolling. I had an incident where I called because they were blocking my driveway. I couldn't get out. And the dispatcher or whoever answered there said if it was an emergency. So that takes me back again to my frustration. Now I'm really upset because, of course, that day, 2 of my girls were at home, but they were visiting me, but they had to get home, and they couldn't get out. I took pictures. So I don't know, I guess the question is, I already know there's priorities and emergencies. So that's why I always hesitate to call. And 2 weeks ago in the meeting, we asked Lieutenant Camacho how many officers they have to patrol, and he said 4. And it was funny because some of the residents, they all know because they watched the YouTube, but right on Rosecrest and Paramount, there was 4 officers apprehending 1 guy in a bicycle. And so, of course, they're being sarcastic and funny. Hey, look, they're all right there, but when we need them out there, they're not there. So I don't know what to do. I know I always come and I ask that, but if I'm gonna call so that they can move, it wasn't an emergency, but they had to leave, but what if it would have been an emergency? Now, she asked me, is this an emergency? If not, if you want, I guess she was busy, and she said, I can go out there and cite them. Well, for me, I would love to. Then whatever happened to the flyer? I mean, you're not going by that flyer where it says, I have pictures where they're blocking. I don't know what to do. I come here, and I don't know what to do.
So, Ms.
Some of my
Rose,
residents, my neighbors, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay.
I mean, I told them, and they said they would be willing to come, but they watch it on YouTube, and nothing gets done. So, what can you tell us? I mean, what can we do, or how can we get somebody out there? I know it's not an emergency. I already know that. It's not a priority. But if you have to get out of your driveway to do something, I have to go and ask, and that's where retaliation comes. And I'm pretty sure that's why they stole that car. I'm pretty sure that's why. I mean,
So, Adrienne, I know we spoke last meeting about having a community meeting there and to talk about rules of parking.
Yes, we haven't scheduled a meeting there yet, but if I could give some feedback in regards to some of the phone calls that we have been receiving in regards to parking enforcement there. I have received pictures and also feedback from the CSOs when they go out there because they've been instructed to do patrol checks. We also have to define blocking a driveway in terms of like if we're going to cite or if we're going to tow, because if it's partially blocking a driveway but the person can get out of their driveway, we will not tow, we will cite. And I think what Ms. Torres and I are going to have to do is just sit down in my office and I can show her some of our response times because I have been receiving them from our CSOs. Now, when we say emergency, there's a difference between an emergency and priority and routine calls. Typically, when it's an emergency, it's going to be that it's either life or death or destruction of property. That's how they identify an emergency. So sometimes the dispatcher will ask that because then they have to prioritize the calls. However, with parking, if our CSOs are there and our office is open, the station is open, they are being instructed to go out there immediately. My understanding is that the last time that there was a call there, I believe our response times was 10 to 15 minutes. And that means that the call needs to be input. We have to make sure that the safety of our officers are well documented as to where they're going. And then the CSO took a picture of the violation that she addressed. So I don't know if there's miscommunication. It's not going to be like that every single time, but we're hoping that it's going to be the majority of the calls that we address in that fashion.
well, it wasn't on mine, I'm sorry, but it takes me back to where they're building that development, the traffic. I mean, right now, this, school is, when they get out, I keep saying that, they park there. You can't even get in or you can't even get out. So that's a more concern to me, that development there, the exit on Elbert Street.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but I guess I'll have to rally neighbors, I don't know.
So we're
Thank
trying to
you.
see if we can get that scheduled. Maybe, like I said, I think what I'm understanding too, these are her neighbors. And sometimes I think you asked that question last time, Councilmember Lemons, of having the conversation with your neighbor about parking in front of your alley. But I know she mentioned something about retaliation, so maybe there's more to it.
Oh, absolutely. We'll look into it and set up a meeting there with the neighbors. And we can do it off-site so that nobody knows what we're discussing.
And Madam Mayor, can
Absolutely,
I just ask
sure.
a question? Since the last time that she was here, Adriana, you stepped up patrols in that area?
Yes.
And you've had calls for service since that point, you said?
Yes.
Do you know how many?
Off the top of my head, no, I don't. But like I mentioned, the CSOs have been sending me pictures of the violations and the response times.
Have they been citable?
One was citable. Megan, do you remember if one was citable and the other one wasn't, right? Yeah. No, so when they went out there, the violation was no longer there.
Happening.
Correct.
So to date, since the last time she was here, there have not been citations issued?
I can't say that with certainty, but I could definitely run the numbers and provide that information for you.
And then finally, you were saying that you have to make a determination. I know that I've had an issue in my neighborhood where it wasn't a violation because they weren't blocking my driveway.
Correct.
But because I have a van and the street is narrow, it was still difficult to get in. As a matter of fact, when my sister was here, she actually hit the car that parks right there, just butts right up against it because she didn't know to make that wide enough turn for it. So is that what it has to be? Is it any footage from the driveway, or it must be blocking it? Like it has to be inside your driveway?
It has to be blocking, and it's usually referred to the lip of the driveway. When it starts going down, that's when we start citing. Or if it's red. In some occasions it's red, and then we can cite at that point. But a lot of people will call and they say they're blocking my driveway. We go out there, and it is a violation where you can issue a citation, but the car cannot be towed. And some people will request that we tow the vehicle, which we can. If you can get out of your driveway, we're not going to tow a vehicle because it's very expensive when you get your vehicle towed. So we typically.
So you're saying like if they need to exit because they've been called out and there's no other way for them to get out, you'll tow it.
Correct.
But if they can, do like a wide turn or something and get out of that driveway, then it doesn't get towed. But
Correct.
any encroachment on the lip, like you call it, the drop, is considered blocking the driveway.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. That
No
ends
more
it for our
comment cards.
comments? All right.
That's it.
All right, you guys, we will go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
So I got a motion by Quera Stallings and a second by Aguayo. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quera Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Okay, we're moving on to new business. Item number 4, Resolution 21030.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Earlier this year, the City Council approved a zone change as well as a conditional use permit to allow a multi-level housing structure to be built at one of the south entrances to our city. And this is at the corner of Paramount Boulevard and 70th Street. Then, with the fiscal year 2022 budget adoption in June, the council approved funds from our low mod housing fund to be contributed to this development. As a result of your approvals and your direction for this property, we now have before you the affordable housing agreement for your approval that will provide the grant funds for this housing project. And with that, I'll turn it over to our planning director, John Carver, who will handle the item. John?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and council members. So this item is a request for approval of a housing grant agreement. The grant would assist with the construction of a mixed-use commercial and senior assisted and independent living facility at 16675 to 16683 Paramount Boulevard. The $300,000 grant would come from the Low to Moderate Income Housing Fund, which is money remaining from the former redevelopment agency. The successor agency for the Paramount Redevelopment Agency will review this item later this evening, and the Housing Authority will adopt a resolution of approval on the October 5th Housing Authority consent calendar. In January of this year, as John mentioned, the City Council approved zone change number 230, changing the zoning of the subject property from general commercial to planned development with performance standards, and that zoning allows for commercial and senior assisted and independent living. In February, the City Council amended the PDPS zoning to require a conditional use permit for retail uses, and that was done to ensure that each retail use could be evaluated to make sure that there was sufficient on-site parking. The Development Review Board approved the design and layout of the project, and currently the site has a closed bar, excuse me, and an auto repair business. Again, the $300,000 grant would come from the Low to Moderate Income Housing Fund. 2 units would be restricted as affordable for 55 years. Money in the Low to Moderate Income Housing Fund may only be used for the provision of affordable housing. Prior to disbursement of the grant, the applicant will provide documentation showing the sources of financing for the project. The project will accomplish a number of things, which include providing for a growing need for affordable housing for seniors. It will help to eliminate a blighted property at the south entrance to the city, as you can see in the slide at the bottom, the picture at the bottom of the slide. And the project will help the city to meet its RENA allocation of affordable housing units. And it's recommended that you adopt Resolution 21030, authorizing the affordable housing grant. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for John? I'm hearing none. All right, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
So moved, Lemons.
Second, Quer Stallings.
Motion by Lemon, second by Quer Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings.
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Okay, moving on to item number 5, receive and file or draft response comments to West Santa Ana Branch
Yes, Madam.
Transit Corridor Project.
Sorry.
I was halfway there.
I know,
Go
sorry
ahead,
about
John.
that.
You're fine.
For months now, we've been discussing with the council Metro's plan to build a light rail line through our town. We've had presentations by Metro staff. We've had presentations by us, with the latest presentation being the timeline for the release of what's called the Draft Environmental Impact Report, or DEIR. The DEIR is required for projects like this one. It allows the public and other agencies to review and make comments about the project, express concerns for the impacts. The DEIR was released by Metro last month, and the comment period is currently going on, and it closes next Thursday, September 30th. As we've been expressing to the City Council, this is an enormous project that will likely have an enormous impact in the lives of many of our residents. And as such, we wanted to be sure to express all of our concerns to Metro about the project. In your packet tonight is a rough draft of the 23-page letter that we are refining and getting ready to send to Metro next week before the deadline. And this letter outlines all of our concerns about the train line as it goes through Paramount. The letter was prepared by a team of city staff and consultants, including our planning consultant, Mark Blodgett, as well as our city engineer, Mr. Rafael Casillas. Before we put the finishing touches on the letter, however, we wanted to present to you a summary of what we've developed so far and see if you have any questions or any additional concerns that we may have missed. So I'm going to now turn it over to Planning Director John Carver, who will give you a summary once again of the light rail line project, and then he's going to invite Mr. Blodgett up, who's going to summarize the letter for you. John?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and council members, as John mentioned, I'm going to just go over the basics of the project with you, and then we'll have Mark Blodgett come up and go over the details of the letter. So the draft EIR was released for comments in July, and comments are due by the end of this month. The project involves a 19-mile light rail project from Artesia to downtown Los Angeles. One station is proposed in Paramount at the northwest corner of Paramount Boulevard and Rosecrans Avenue, and another station is planned on the Century Freeway as a transfer station to the C line. I'm sorry, I just got out of order here just a bit. So funding for the project comes from Measure M, which is a 0.5% sales tax. There are 4 project alternatives ranging in cost from $2.3 billion to $8.8 billion. The draft EIR contains mitigation measures to minimize project impacts. And the final EIR will incorporate and respond to comments made on the draft environmental impact report. Here are the 4 alternatives. The first one is Pioneer Station in Artesia to Los Angeles Union Station, Pioneer Station in Artesia to Metro Center, Pioneer Station to Slauson, which is the Metro preferred option, and the 4th option is Pioneer Station to Century Freeway C line. There are also 2 locations under consideration for a maintenance and storage facility. One is at the swap meet in Paramount, and the second is at the Bellflower Hollywood Sports property. We are not in favor of a rail yard at the swap meet. This map illustrates the 4 alternatives. This map shows the route through Paramount and the crossings. You can see down at the right-hand side, it crosses at grade over Lakewood Boulevard, and then at Downey Avenue, it will be elevated, and at grade at Somerset also, I'm sorry, and then moving up to Downey, it will be elevated, and then at the station location at the corner of Paramount and Rosecrans, it will be elevated also. This is a look at the acquisitions and potential displacements if there is not a maintenance facility in Paramount. The little black dots, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. Those are properties where people could be displaced potentially. This is a map showing acquisitions and potential displacements with the maintenance facility in Paramount, and you can see there's a significant increase in the number of people that potentially could be displaced, again indicated by the black dots. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Blodgett from Blodgett Balos Environmental Planning, and he will give a presentation on the draft EIR letter.
Hey, Mark, go ahead and hit the button there. There you go.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, for the record, my name is Mark Blodgett. I'm a principal with Blodgett Balos Associates. I've worked in the city for about 30 years. I'm very familiar with this light rail project and others, and you've given me a device that I'm sure will...
Mark, we can move it for you.
Please. Okay. Let's go to the first slide.
We
Okay.
can just get
Danny, that's that other presentation.
Yeah, you need to go to the other.
Okay, 1 second while we upload that
Okay.
presentation.
Yeah, the city retained me to assist in critiquing the environmental impact statement, environmental impact report, to ensure that the city's interests were being considered and protected in the environmental document. Now, this report is very large. The public document is hundreds of pages long, and it is available to the public to review on the MTA's website. It also includes a number of technical studies and appendices. And so the project team read through all of this material. Thankfully, the city's traffic engineer read through the appendix dealing with traffic, and we were able to glean a great deal of important information, and I'm going to summarize that in a few minutes tonight. First of all, we divided our task into these 3 bullets you see before you tonight. We wanted to focus on those elements that would affect the city of Paramount. We were not looking at the whole 19 miles of alternative A, which is a preferred alternative of the city. We only focused on the city of Paramount and those issues that would be of concern to the city. And we also wanted to identify those modifications that were really germane to the city and to its residents and businesses. Okay, next slide. Probably the most critical element would be to raise our criticism regarding the Paramount MSF option. That's the Metrolinx proposed for the maintenance facility for the light rail vehicles. Basically, all of these alignments have to maintain their rail cars if they break down, and then there's the routine maintenance. If you go along the 210 freeway, on the south side of the 210 freeway, you see a large rail yard in Pasadena. That's their maintenance service facility. And they want to or will need to construct one of those facilities to serve this West Santa Ana branch. And the 2 yards are being proposed, one of 2 yards. One is in Paramount, and the other one is in Bellflower. The Bellflower option, when we're not saying this because we don't want it in our backyard, the Bellflower option is actually located right next to the LRT alignment. The Paramount MSF option, they're actually going to have to extend the tracks southerly from the main alignment into where the drive-in and swap meet are located. So they're not only going to have to acquire the swap meet, drive-in, and those industrial uses that are located there, they're also going to have to extend the tracks so that they can get their vehicles and equipment down to that MSF yard. We are concerned about the displacement. There's over 700 vendors that will be put out of work. And in the EIR, it's totally, completely unclear where those vendors or where the swap meet would locate. It just says simply, there's nowhere in the city, but we're sure that within a 6-mile radius, there are options available. Well, we're not so sure of that. There's also a loss of revenue. It would also affect the church. That's a historically significant resource for the city. It's actually the only historically significant resource that's listed. And they did acknowledge that in the EIR. And then finally, one thing that wasn't noted, they somewhat dismissed the use of toxic chemicals. Light rail vehicles, batteries, and the other equipment, we are very concerned about that equipment and the other materials being stored in close proximity to a high concentration of residents and schools and other public venues in the immediate area. Finally, and more importantly, the city spent a great deal of energy and effort with this Clearwater East Pacific Plan. That area is hopefully going to be used to meet and to accommodate a big part of the city's regional housing needs allocation, needs assessment. And if it's used for materials maintenance yard, that's not going to happen. Next slide, please. We also have serious concerns about the station that's being proposed at the I-105 Century Freeway. That's going to be a station that's going to have a lot of parking that will displace potential existing on-street parking. They've designed the station for X number of parking spaces. However, the patronage of that station will far exceed the parking that's required. And so we're concerned that the traffic, the drop-offs, and the parking demand at that station is going to create major parking problems in not only Paramount's area, neighborhood, but it's also going to have some substantial parking impacts in the Southgate neighborhood to the north. We've actually, in our response, suggested that maybe the MTA consider that as a transfer station only. Now, what that means is that station would be used for riders to get onto another train. They wouldn't be driving there to board the train. They would simply, if you want to get on the train to go to Orange County or to somewhere else along that alignment, you could get off the existing light rail and switch, which would really make a lot of sense given the other constraints related to parking and traffic. Next slide, please. I think we're
Oh, I'm sorry.
going back, yeah. Okay, the Paramount Rosecrans Station, a portion that is going to be aerial. Again, this is going to be similar to some of the other light rail stations that I've looked at, in that the patronage is quite high. I mean, that's a good thing. You want people to use the light rail. But when you design a parking lot for, say, 490 spaces, but you're anticipating upwards of maybe 3,000 patrons, then you already have a problem with a potential difference in terms of ridership and parking. Now, unlike a movie theater or a grocery store, people park at these light rail stations in the morning, they use them, and they generally come back and get in their car in the evening. It's long-term parking. So, we are concerned with their parking study, which we could not find any detailed analysis. They just simply said they did a survey of the area, and we feel that it's sufficient. We're not convinced. We don't want spillover parking in our neighborhoods or businesses. We don't want parking problems to be a problem, create a new problem. And also, there's a lot of traffic there in that area now related to that intersection, especially during the school periods. I've worked in this city for 30 years, and I know to leave to my meetings early and when not to hit the Rosecrans Paramount intersection when the school lets out. And, we need to be careful because during those peak periods, that light rail is going to be running 2.5 to 5 minute headways. The trains are going to be very busy. Next slide, please. A number of other issues, noise. The light rail cars themselves are very quiet. In fact, many of the fatalities from the other lines are related to people not hearing the trains coming, people walking on their tracks. But what is a problem are the safety features themselves, the noise makers designed to alert people, pedestrians and cars, that the train is coming. So we want to make sure that sufficient mitigation is provided so that its safety is maintained, but it doesn't become an annoyance. So we've got mitigation that we're very specific in terms of wall heights, making sure that they maintain the walls graffiti-free, that they work with the residents in the design and maintenance of those walls, and just to be good public neighbors. The other thing, again, we're really concerned about the dislocation, getting back to the MSF. We don't want to lose a swap meet. My wife and I shop at that swap meet, and we don't live anywhere near Paramount, but we shop there a lot. The dislocation of the drive-in theater. I don't know of any drive-in theater within 5 miles. I think the closest one is in the City of Industry. Next slide. Others, we want to make sure the bike trail is not necessarily preserved in its same place. It can't be, but we don't want them to forget about it. We also want to make sure that the plans for other projects in the city, such as the Alt-Air project, that's something else now, that they're moving the tracks, that they work closely with the other stakeholders along that line to make sure that they don't create new unforeseen impacts. Also, the traffic methodology was flawed. They used different modeling, outdated modeling, and we were very specific. The traffic engineer identified the modeling that they should have used, and they actually brought this to their attention very early on. And also, who's going to pay the cost for the security at the stations? Because the city contracts with the sheriff, we want to make sure that some of the bills for the security of the Rosecrans station and some of these other stations don't show up on the city's costs. These costs need to be, the city of Paramount cannot afford to pay some of these costs in terms of cleanup after construction, street sweeping, and so on and so forth. Next slide. Now these are excerpts from the standard letter that many of the cities that are involved, and this has to do with, the support of the city for alternative one. That's the 19-mile alternative. And also the MTA's request for a 3% sharing of the overall project cost. And the city's saying, no, we can't do that. I'm sorry. We supported the Measure M and the other initiatives to get this off the ground. And the city residents and government are going to have to give up a lot to see this come to fruition. And we just don't have the resources to give up 3% of the general fund. We just simply don't. The city of Paramount is not in the light rail business. We're in the city business. And we'll do everything we can to help and assist, but we cannot give up 3% of our general fund monies. With that, staff, Madam Mayor, members of the council, I've concluded my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. That was a really good presentation. I understood every piece of that.
Oh,
Very thorough and it was very good. So do we have any questions from colleagues before I ask my questions?
I have
Absolutely, Councilmember McGeehan.
So these are all really valid concerns and things that I have heard from my constituents that they're concerned about as well. So now that you've identified these concerns, what was you present these concerns to the city?
Yes, we've already done that. We've prepared a letter. In fact, John. Sorry, guys, I had to do that. Contacted me some weeks back and asked me if I could review the report. And I'd actually started reviewing it because most of my clients are in the Gateway City area. And the way it works is the city of Paramount will submit this letter to the MTA. And this is actually a critique, if you would, on their draft environmental impact statement, environmental impact report. They have a certain time frame to respond to these comments. And they're going to have to respond to these comments point by point, and responses will be in their final EIR. And the reason that we wanted to focus on the city of Paramount issues, and we wanted to try to make them as focused as possible. My presentation was somewhat general, but they're actually fairly pointed and specific and technical in our memo, is we want responses. We want to see what the walls are going to look like. We want to see your responses to how high are the walls going to be. So that's our next focus, is to get that letter to them next week. And that letter, the draft, is in your packet so that we can make the deadline for submittal.
Okay, that answers that question, but my follow-up question to that is, this project seems to be going forward. I sit on the Eco Rapid Transit Commission, and it seems like it's going to be going forward. One of the things that we recently met and spoke about was drafting a letter to preserve the record of all our concerns that we have in case things go through that we necessarily didn't want. But if you don't put it on the record now, then you can't go back and say, well, we don't want this because we didn't complain about it. So I just want to make sure in this draft response from the city of Paramount that we really address the fact that on where they want to put that maintenance yard in Bellflower, that it's on Lakewood and Somerset. And that is our bordering, the street that borders Paramount and differentiates between Paramount and Bellflower. So my concern is if that maintenance yard goes through and then we have this alt-air reconstruction, that's going to push traffic way back into Paramount, specifically around the high school, which is the other side of the high school. So I just want to make sure that we really hit that hard, that how close, we say it's in Bellflower, but literally it's across the street, and that will impact our community. So to me, that's really important. And then I think this is probably going to need to go in a different letter, that the third alternative that you were talking about on this draft comment that we got, they're talking about now not having this line go all the way into Union Station, but actually stopping on Slauson. So we're talking about all this construction, all the interruption of the city of Paramount, displacement, and it won't even take our city into downtown. And that's what we bought into, to connect us to downtown. So I know at some point it probably wouldn't be this letter, but we really need to emphasize that we sold this project as we're taking our residents into downtown LA. And now it seems like what Metro really wants to do is a third alternative, and that's stop it at its Lawson. So that's very concerning.
Well, in the beginning of the letter, we emphasized that the letter, or that the alternative one, the 19-mile, is the one that is being supported. And I don't want to get on a soapbox, but frankly, the cost benefit of this light rail, when you look at the air quality impacts, greenhouse gas impacts, is really not all that much when you look at the shorter alternative. In fact, you'd probably be better off spending your $18 billion or whatever buying Los Angelinos Priuses. I'm serious. I mean, look at the numbers. You have to look at what is the bang for the buck, and it really only makes sense to go with the longer, the 19-mile, because it really does fill in the gap. And I've been arguing for years to get a light rail system into the Gateway City area. Now, and I'm not speaking in a vacuum, I worked with LACTC for years on some of the original lines, the Blue Line, which is now the Gold Line, East LA Route Refinement, and I was always amazed how some of the heaviest traveled corridors didn't have mass rail transit, not even Metrolink. So, you know, now that we're getting it, and now they're wanting to go with a cheaper option, which makes no sense. It's got to be alternative one if it's gonna make environmental sense, environmental justice sense, and if it's gonna pay for itself. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
So, John, my question to you is, what are we doing as a city? I mean, we got his report, which was very comprehensive, and I really do appreciate your report. Thank you so much. Where are we as far as what we're going to do as a city? I mean, I know we're combining our letter with Eco Rapid and.
Yeah. So his report that he gave is actually our letter. So it's all embedded in this. So what I would ask of the council is, take this home if you can. Please review it. The deadline is September 30th. If you have any other comments that you'd like for us to incorporate that we maybe have missed or could be enhanced a little more, let us know. Or if there's any questions about, hey, did the EIR address this? I mean, for instance, I think I gave this maybe as an example. They're going to tear down that bridge that goes from Paramount High School to the Paramount West campus, and they're going to build a tunnel. So our concern that Mark placed in here is, when you build a tunnel, what's the security going to be like for the students? They're going to be going back and forth at night as well. So there's little things that definitely apply to it that are incorporated in this letter. So we definitely want to get to them the letter by the 29th, even though the deadline's at the 30th. So it's all in here, what you see. And as far as alternative one going from all the way from Artesia through to downtown, we do have that as our preferred option. We do want that to go all the way through. So,
Any more questions? No?
I just had a comment. This is an excellent report. You addressed some concerns that I've been approached about, the residents, school employees, the time to get from one school site to another school site for a meeting. Also, if there's happened to be a disaster and all this school employees, especially at the maintenance facility, and have to get to schools to prepare, whether it be a plumber, electrician, a carpenter. But thank you. You've addressed a lot of the concerns.
I didn't do it by myself.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, I do have one question, though, just for education. This is either for Mark, John, or John, whatever wants to answer. So what happens? So now you guys develop this letter. It goes to you, and you ask for responses for each detailed item for a final EIR. So what's the process?
So, and Mark, if you want to take a shot at that.
Sure. Well,
Since you've
the
been doing
first
this for
thing we'll
years.
do is we'll look at the final EIR.
Okay.
and critique the final EIR. We'll sit down with MTA and said, thank you very much, you've responded dead on to every single item. Or we'll sit down with them and say, you guys totally blew us off. And, I think, especially when it's public agency to public agency, there's that certain protocol that I would suggest that we follow. And, remember, this is also an environmental impact statement. So the federal government's involved as well. And, so we want to be able to make sure they collaborate and listen to us and give us an explanation why they didn't listen to us. But I'm going to assume, because of the work that EcoRapid invested in this effort, that it'll be a very fruitful effort. I'm an optimist. I have to be.
Also, in answer to your question, Mayor, too, if worst case, let's just say that we have 23 pages here of concerns, and Metro just decides to, like Mark said, blow us off and not address any of them. They don't install new walls. They go with the Paramount maintenance facility. They purchase the land from Bianchi, build the facility. There are legal recourse options that the council has. I mean, it's going up against a Goliath, obviously, Metro. But that's always something that agencies do when they disagree on the final draft of the environmental impact report. If it's not considered, then we have that option at our disposal.
Got it.
Madam Mayor, may I?
Absolutely.
First of all, Mr. Blodgett, I just really want to thank you for your comprehensive review. I know that you had already spotted some items that were going to greatly affect the residents over in that area so that we could address them in this letter. I would also just like to state to my colleagues, I think that whenever you have the opportunity to speak to the people that are representative of us in this project, Mr. Dutra, who's our appointed representative, our supervisor, Han, Councilmember Guillen sits on the EcoRapid board. I think that you should mention this letter to them and say, the project is presenting a lot of issues for a lot of residents in our city. Several of the things that are outlined in here all came specifically from the residents. I've been meeting with them on a regular basis to keep them updated on what's going on with the project, and this is feedback on some of the sound mitigations and things that they want to see that have changed. And just as early as today, there was something that changed again since we just met last month, which is the train elevation. We had thought it was going to begin to elevate at the cul-de-sac. It's not now. It's going to start elevating mid-block. So it's going to affect about 20 more households than we originally thought. As I've mentioned to Mr. Blodgett and to John, I was involved as a resident for the 105 freeway, lived in the area and was heavily impacted by that. And I can tell you that these things do kind of change in a vacuum, and they change moment by moment. And, it's extremely important that each of us, as we hear details, we bring it forward so that we can all lobby for it, because this is going to be a lifelong impact on all of these residents and in different parts of the project and different areas of it. And I think that the person-to-person lobbying, as the letter is hitting Metro, but Dutra and Han and the EcoRapid board, we've sent this letter. We have lots of concerns. When you receive it, please pay attention to it. Come back to us, discuss these issues. And as you begin to hear those things from the residents that are more concerned, this is our first draft. Try to talk to them now, hear them, so that we can incorporate, anything that we can think of. And, kudos to staff for hiring an expert to review this and stay on top of a report that's this big, because getting buried in the minutia can really cost all of us. So thank you very much.
Great.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, if I may add to what Councilmember, to piggyback on what Councilmember Lemons mentioned, keep in mind the project is only at the 15% design phase. So yes, there are going to be changes. So we just have to definitely stay on top of those, and we will, with the help of Mark, with the help of our engineering firm Wildan, who participated in the drafting of this letter. My expectation is when they get to say a 40% design or a 60% design, then we're going to see the details. Then the devil's in the details, as the old saying goes. So we have to really stay on top, and we will. We will definitely stay as it progresses. But now is the time to comment on what we have, and there's a lot of unknowns because it's only 15% design. Great, thanks, Mark.
All right, thank you so much. So I think this is a receive and file, but I think, do we still need a motion? We do. Great. I guess I'll go ahead and entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Square Stallings?
Can I get a second?
Second.
Is that you, Councilman McGeehan? So we have a first by Claire Stallings and a second by Guillen to provide direction on comments to include the response to the West Santa Ana Branch Transit Corridor Project Environmental Impact Report and receive and file this report. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Move on to award a contract for Salute Park walking track replacement.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. It's hard to believe, but Salute Park is almost 10 years old. The track is used quite a bit by our residents, and it's starting to show signs of wear and tear. So for safety purposes, we need to replace it. Here's our Public Works Director, Ms. Adriana Figueroa, to walk you through the report. Adriana?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, as John indicated, the walking track at Salute Park has started to deteriorate. This walking track is heavily used and really has exhausted its useful life. We placed the complete replacement of this walking track in our fiscal year 22 budget, as we knew the repairs were unlikely given its condition and our high quality standards. The image on your left side of the screen shows the size of the walking track around the artificial turf area. And the image in the center and to the right shows how the material is now peeling and lifting from the edges. Our bid opening was held on September 16th. One bid was received for this project, and that bid came in from Bain & Sports Surfaces in the amount of $181,000. This amount is below our budgeted amount of $185,000. And with that, it is recommended that the City Council award the contract for Salute Park walking track replacement to Bain & Sports Surfaces in the amount of $181,000. That concludes my report, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Adriana, I think that was the quickest report you've ever done. Do you have any questions for Adriana? If not, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
I'll move the item. Lemmons?
Second, Aguayo.
We have a motion by Lemon, second by Aguayo. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, we're moving on to item number 7, another award of contract for the sport court repairs.
Yes, keeping with the theme of maintaining our facilities for the benefit of residents, our basketball courts at some of our parks need to be resurfaced. You'll see in a few minutes here the paint's starting to chip, and we want to prevent further deterioration. So here's our Public Works Director again to handle the item.
Let's see if this one will be faster. Thank you, John. Madam Mayor, members of the council, as John indicated again, the outdoor basketball courts at our city parks are heavily utilized. The paint has faded and chipped and needs to be refreshed. We included monies in this fiscal year 22 budget for both the repaint of the surfacing and the replacement of the basketball backboards. The agenda item before you today is only for the repainting of the court's surfacing. The remainder of the project will be the purchase and installation of the backboards, which will be completed by Public Works staff. As you can see, this project includes the repainting of the basketball court at Paramount Park with 1 full court, 2 full courts at Progress Park, 1 full court at Village Park, and 2 half courts at Spanny Park. The image on the center of your screen, images on the center of your screen, shows the deteriorating condition from the basketball courts at Spanny, and the image on the right side of your screen shows the most recently completed courts at All-American Park, which was done back in 2019. Our bid opening was held on September 16th. 2 bids were received for this project. The apparent low bid was submitted by Pacific Tennis Courts, Inc. in the amount of $55,554. The second bid was the highest bid in the amount of $78,148. The low bid amount is slightly over the budgeted amount of $55,000 and will need to be adjusted during the mid-year budget process to include this work as well as the purchase of the backboard equipment. And with that, it is recommended that the City Council award the contract for sport court repairs to Pacific Tennis Court. That concludes my report, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Okay, I will go ahead and entertain a motion.
So moved. Queer Stallings.
Second.
We have a motion by Queer Stallings and a second by Lemons. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings.
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Okay, next item is an approval for the request for change to existing limited time parking zone at 16450 Paramount Boulevard.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We need to make a change to a green curb in our downtown. It's a limited time parking zone, and here's Adriana Figueroa to go over the item. Ms. Figueroa?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and members of the council, we have received some calls regarding confusion from the existing limited time parking zone in front of 16402 to 16450 Paramount Boulevard. The current site conditions are a 30-minute limited time parking zone in front of 16402 through 16406 Paramount Boulevard, a 2-hour limited time parking zone in front of 16444 Paramount Boulevard, and a 30-minute limited time parking zone in front of 16450 Paramount Boulevard. The 30-minute and 2-hour zones at 16444 and 16450 are right next to each other, and although the area is properly signed, this has the potential to cause confusion among those attempting to park in the area. This gives you a visual for the current conditions, which are, again, a mix of 30-minute and 2-hour limited time parking zones within a very short distance. So what we are proposing is changing the 30-minute limited time parking zone in front of 16450 Paramount Boulevard to a 2-hour limited time parking zone to match the area in front of 16444 Paramount Boulevard. We do not intend to change the 30-minute green curb parking zone in front of 16402 through 16406 Paramount Boulevard, as this business is a pharmacy and the need for a shorter time zone is necessary. Also, it should be noted that the green curb zones in front of 16402 and 16444 are separated by a driveway, allowing sufficient distance between these two zones. The Public Works Commission reviewed this item at its September meeting and recommended approval to the City Council. A notice indicating the commission would hear the item was sent to the adjoining businesses and residents, and likewise, the adjoining businesses and residents received a letter about tonight's City Council meeting as well. So with that, it is recommended that the City Council approve or deny the request change to the existing limited time parking zone at 16450 Paramount Boulevard. That concludes my report, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Adriana. Any questions?
I just have one.
Sure.
So are there any other businesses after the one that you're proposing to change? I think that's Paramount Furniture. There used to be some small little businesses like a shoe repair.
Let me see the pictures. Let me go back to the pictures.
My question is, by extending it to 2 hours, is it going to interfere with any of the other businesses located at 16458 or 16482, where if they need those parking spaces to utilize those businesses, the 2 hour might interfere with their parking? So that's my question is, what are those other businesses there?
Let me go back to that. and
I
see
think
if
it's
we can see
like
it.
the.
It's a medical facility, but next to it
This
is
is a
what you're
doctor's
talking,
office,
right?
then it goes Paramount Furniture, then it goes
Right.
at that martial arts
Martial
place.
arts, and then the tire place
And a tire
further.
place.
We haven't seen any issues. They also have parking in the back. We haven't seen any issues in that area, so I don't know that I answered your question.
Okay.
Adriana, go ahead. Adriana, what is the parking limit on the by the repair, auto repair. Is it an auto repair or is it a tire store?
South of this, there is no limited parking, I don't believe.
Yeah, it's
Is
an
there?
auto body
Well,
shop, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, that's what I
And
thought.
there is no parking
No.
there.
No parking
No
in front?
parking at
No.
all. No, ma'am.
Okay, and then it's a car wash.
Yes,
Correct.
heading
And
southbound.
no parking there.
There is parking in front of the car wash. Yes.
I thought it was a bus stop.
No, to my knowledge, it's not. I believe, yeah, because there's cars that park there right in front of the car wash, in between the two driveways, the entrance
you have two
to the car
driveways.
wash and the exit. There's that. There used to be a ficus tree there. Yeah, there is parking there,
Okay.
and there's parking across the street in front of Paramount Saw as
Paramount,
well,
yes.
and obviously parking in here in our parking lot as well.
And do they utilize the parking here?
I've seen employees park and then walk across the street to certain businesses around the downtown. Sure, that does happen every now and then.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, with that said, we'll go ahead. Can I entertain a motion, please?
So move, Lemons.
Second, Aguayo.
So I have a motion by Lemons and a second by Aguayo to approve the request change to the existing limited parking zone at 16450 Paramount Boulevard. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer-Stalling,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Moving on to item 9, a discussion about our update on the Paramount Al Fresco temporary outdoor dining program.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Our Al Fresco outdoor dining program turned 1 year old last month.
Wow.
I know. Time flies. It was intended to be a temporary program, as you know, that allows restaurants to stay in business during COVID, during the pandemic. It was very popular. It was a hit. It was well received by restaurants and patrons. As you know, with COVID, things are still in flux. We're dealing with different variants that are happening with COVID. But we need to be prepared for going back to normal while being also flexible with our restaurants who have the opportunity to possibly make outdoor dining a permanent thing of their business. However, we need to proceed cautiously. As you'll see, we need to take into account several factors, including safety for outdoor diners, off-street parking, ADA access, things of that nature. So here with us is our Assistant City Manager, Andrew Villalpando, who has a full report for you on the al fresco dining. Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. In response to COVID, the state of California and the county of Los Angeles, as you know, declared public health emergencies. That led to numerous different regulations, mostly surrounded around just trying to keep people away from each other, at least 6 feet away, otherwise known as social distancing. One of those things was indoor dining. That's what took a hit. In August 2020, the state and the county amended their regulations, their public health orders, to allow for outdoor dining, again, with the spirit of keeping people separated. That prompted the city to explore our options, and we created a Paramount Al Fresco temporary outdoor dining program. Paramount Al Fresco enabled restaurants to continue to operate for outdoor dining. In the spirit of economic recovery and sustainability, what Al Fresco essentially did was it allowed the city to ease our local ordinances under the protection of the state health order to streamline requirements and approvals for restaurants to provide an outdoor space. But the state ended its COVID-19 public health orders on June 15th of this year, reopening the economy. This was essentially followed by the county rescinding all of its COVID restrictions and effectively removed all of the protections that we were using to allow for outdoor dining, temporary outdoor dining, and continue and essentially affected our ability to continue on with the Al Fresco program. So here's just some stats on how Al Fresco went. We had 14 restaurants who participated. There are still about 10 that are still operating outdoor spaces. There were 9 unpermitted restaurants at the time when we first started getting going. When we reassessed just a few months ago, there were 6 unpermitted restaurants, and those are no longer operating. And then there are 2 code enforcement cases open for unpermitted restaurants as we speak, or at the time of this report. Letters were sent to all of the restaurateurs informing them of the new changes at the state and the county levels. What the letter basically said is just informing them, what the changes were, and that we also insisted that all of the unpermitted restaurants cease operations immediately. There was no firm end date, and this is mainly because the spirit of Alfresco was to try to encourage survival and recovery. And as you know, we're not entirely out of COVID, so we're still monitoring and kind of following what some of our neighboring cities are doing. And so right now, we're just kind of we informed that there is definitely a sunset. We just don't know when it's going to be. So when developed, the Alfresco program temporarily relaxed our city laws, as I mentioned. It was strictly under the protection of the state and excuse me, and the county's health orders. When the health orders were rescinded, the California Joint Powers Insurance Authority, or the CJPIA, strongly recommended that the city require any Alfresco restaurant interested in continuing their dining options to undergo safety and regulation measures. The JPIA, just for background information, it guides the cities in navigating all risk management issues, so it provides us opinions on liability and risk. So some examples of what we would require is if a restaurant was interested in maintaining their outdoor dining program or outdoor area, we would require that they install safety barriers, as an example, to protect patrons from vehicles. Other city liability for permitting these risks might include limited access to ADA, and that would be an issue that we would take liability on for permitting that. So we would need to make sure that any future restaurants that want permanent outdoor dining spaces follow those regulations. So moving forward, as I mentioned, the state and the county rescinded their orders. Things are generally starting to get back to normal with businesses. Indoor dining, as you know, is now permitted. Currently, the Paramount Municipal Code does not allow for temporary dining. So with that, we have to start taking a look at what the next steps are. But in the spirit of survival and recovery, as I mentioned, we will continue to monitor the COVID-19 situation and continue to adjust to the social distancing climate that's out there. So I mentioned permanent outdoor dining as an alternative, and some restaurants may feel that this is an option they want to explore. But in order to do that, as I mentioned, the Paramount Municipal Code is really what guides the city and restaurants, businesses, on how they can continue to operate, or what their how their conditions of their businesses may operate. So with that, these are basically the parameters of what would be involved in continuing a permanent outdoor dining alternative. It would require restaurants to modify their conditional use permit, and part of the CUP process is, one, to submit an application with an application fee, pass safety and regulation analysis, and obtain planning commission approval. This is just a kind of an illustration of what it looks like from left to right. So on your far left, you see there's an application fee. It does require a safety and regulation analysis of what the plan would be for an outdoor dining. And overall, this process could take at least about 45 days, and that's with no changes or conditional changes to their application. We've offered to review draft applications before any business wants to submit them, and I'll get to that in a moment when I talk about who we've outreached to. So, as an alternative to permanent dining option, we could hypothetically, which could hypothetically result in renovations that are very costly for business owners. We're considering creating a program through our Explore Paramount campaign, which, as we presented to you a few months ago, is our new Shop Local campaign. Conceptually, Dine Paramount is a multifaceted approach to attract existing customers to various and local eateries in town, and encourage new customers to patronize these businesses as well. Part of this whole concept would be to encourage outdoor dining as an alternative to our alfresco program. So in the coming months, We plan to develop and promote a variety of different promotional dining events, including events, as I mentioned, that incorporate a temporary outdoor dining option for restaurants through the Explore Paramount website and our social media outlets. Just some examples of this might be, for instance, restaurants offering a 10%, for example, discount on a certain weekend for their signature dish or cuisine. Maybe hosting different micro events like Fish Fridays at the Friday night market for our seafood restaurants. Or something else might be, encouraging customers to take pictures of their favorite dish and put it on our social media. And then eventually this would all kind of lead up to a month-long Paramount food tour where we would highlight different cuisines like, Latin, Americano, Italian, mariscos type of cuisine. So these are just conceptual, and it's obviously things that we need to explore more, but we think that this would be a good, a very positive and fruitful thing both for the businesses and for the city in general. Ultimately, a Dine Paramount program would be a collaboration between the city and the Chamber of Commerce. So it would, really promote our local economy and encourage businesses to participate and drive that shop local mentality. Although Dine Paramount, hypothetically, would be voluntary, I think a big incentive is that it offers free advertisement promotion for restaurants in the area. So I think it provides a pretty good business opportunity for different businesses. So next steps, staff plans to collaborate with the Chamber, as I mentioned, to develop a promotional Dine Paramount concept and encourage restaurants to join the program, advertise through our Explore Paramount website, and promote it all on social media, websites, and local publications. So everything that I've talked about so far, we've presented at a Business Recovery Committee meeting. And just to give you kind of a quick refresher, the Business Recovery Committee was established summer of last year in response to COVID and businesses to try to get input from our business community on, next steps on how do we recover. And Alfresco was actually born from that committee as well. At least the idea was. So we met on August 26th. We had 12 participants join the meeting. That included 4 local restaurants, the Chamber of Commerce, and our Workforce Development Board, Salico. We discussed the future of outdoor dining uses and offered creative ideas. We explained, staff explained, the temporary outdoor dining options were not permitted in the municipal code, and we would have to explore different ways through the municipal code to make those permanent options. All of the businesses in attendance were very receptive to the ideas, particularly Dine Paramount. But I do want to just highlight some of we did at length talk about the Alfresco program, and the 2 quotes right there on your right-hand side were from Gloria Gamino from Casa Gamino and Casa Delita. And they had very positive things to say about the city and the staff and our efforts to, in our collaboration with them to help them survive and recover. So this is a testament to, I think, all of you and, all of everyone that pulled together in the same direction from the city. So as I mentioned earlier, we did offer to meet with any businesses wanting to explore a CUP application for a permanent outdoor dining option. One business, which is Stinking Crawfish, has actually met with staff to explore that. So they're currently doing site assessments, parking lot, parking circulation, and parking assessments. So that's the only one so far, but we are ready and we are willing. So we are on standby with that. And overall, it was a very positive meeting. I think we got some really good ideas from it. So with that, we just wanted to bring this report to you to capture any input you may have and capture any comments or discussion that you might want to share with us. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do we have any questions for Andrew?
I don't have a question, Madam Mayor, but just a comment. Great job. I think that these are terrific ideas, especially, the promotion that you have planned for several months out. I think those are all really great ideas. Love that you're collaborating with the Chamber of Commerce because they have the steady relationships with them. And I don't think this can do anything but being, a positive outcome for our restaurants. So thank you.
I just have a couple of questions, Andrew. So how did you come up with the $850 application fee?
So that's actually through the planning department process. That's part of our
The
user
fees.
fees for
Got it.
the any CUP.
Got it. And then you said on there, no tents. Did you mean no canopies or?
Same. That's what we're referring
Or
to is like
no
canopies. and
canopies.
things, yeah.
But what about those nice big white ones that are like very expensive?
Yeah, I think through the process of when, a CUP application is assessed by the planning department, we would probably need to define better on what we're talking about in terms of outdoor shelter.
Sure.
We wouldn't want anything that would present a fire code issue or something that makes the property look more, blighted. So yeah, I would think like permanent fixtures, like something installed permanently,
Okay.
a nice umbrella or something like that.
So that was just a general.
Yeah.
For now. Okay. All right. No other comments?
I was concerned about that $850 fee as well, because if that's what the regular CUP is, this isn't like for a large building inspection of whether or not AQMD needs to come in. That sounds like an awful lot of money to want to start an application for dining outside. Is there a reason why we didn't change the application fee for al fresco?
No, the conditional use permit filing fee has been $850 for probably 15, 20 years.
But not
So-
for al fresco, because this is the first time we're...
No, but as Andrew mentioned, we will do a preliminary review for them before accepting their application and the fee, so that we can let them know whether we think it would get approved or not. But the fee is $850.
And if I may add, the fee is part of our fee schedule. So that's
For any
it's not-
CPU.
yeah,
It doesn't
yeah,
matter if it's al fresco, whatever. It's any CPU that.
that's
that
precisely
comes
right. Yeah, and it does. Yeah, it's for any business use. A business would have to provide their conditions, and they would have to go through that application process. But I think what John, and this is I think the biggest point to highlight in that process, Councilmember Guillen, is that we've offered to, even before they pay that fee, to kind of give them coaching on, this is what we're going to look at, this is feasible, this is not. So before they even submit it, we would interact with them a lot. So
Well, we trust that you're going to work with our business community. I think we've always had that reputation of working with them. So if not, we'll come after you, Andrew. No, I'm just kidding. All right, you guys, moving on. We're going to move on to the environmental sustainability. We have some new business. Item number 10, we have an oral report for regional implementation of Measure W Safe Clean Water Program.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Back in November of 2018, LA County voters approved Measure W. This created a special parcel tax for all property owners that you have to pay, and it's intended to pay for projects, infrastructure, programs to capture, treat, and recycle rainwater. This item before you tonight is an update on Measure W and how the county plans to use the funds raised from Measure W. Tonight with us, we have a guest speaker, Ms. Tara Dales with SGA Marketing. She's a consultant with LA County. Hey, Tara.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. All right, can I begin?
Yes, you can. Go ahead. Perfect.
All right, can we dive in? I think some of you may know that your Public Works Director, Ms. Bureau, sits on one of the committees for this program. So tonight I'll be giving you a very short overview, as well as the source of the funding, the types of programs, the Safe Clean Water Funds, and then I'll be giving you some examples of projects, including one that has just been funded in Paramount. So firstly, to an overview, as mentioned in the introduction, it was passed as Measure W in 2018, and funding from this program covers multi-benefit stormwater and urban runoff capture projects. The vision behind all these projects that are going to be funded is to modernize our 100-year-old water system so that we can protect public health, protect our environment, and maximize a cleaner, locally controlled water supply. So the program is overseen by the LA County Flood Control District. So with every project funded, it aims to achieve 4 things with every project, one of which is to capture as much of the rainwater that we get in the region, that we're increasing our water supply, clean the stormwater that we capture, so that we're reducing the trash that enters our waterways and ultimately our oceans, and also keep it safe so that we're also reducing toxins and chemicals in our water. And then lastly, with these stormwater infrastructure projects, the hope is that they also have a community benefit. So when we're building an infrastructure project, the hope is that we're also adding the green space, we're adding additional recreational facilities, we're adding additional bike paths, so that the community can also enjoy. So the funding is generated from a special parcel tax. This is about 2.5 cents, sorry, it is 2.5 cents per square foot of impermeable surface area properties in the LA County Flood Control District. And every year, about $280 million is raised through this tax. We are in the third year of taxing, and the funding is then divided up into three buckets. So 10% goes to the Flood Control District for their administrative fees, as well as for youth education and workforce programs they're currently developing. Then 50% goes to the regional program. So within this regional program, the funding is allocated across the 9 watersheds in the county, and it's allocated proportional to tax revenues collected in each of these 9 watersheds. So Paramount is located in the lower Los Angeles River watershed, and so every year there's approximately $12.7 million available for regional stormwater infrastructure projects. So there are 3 types of projects that can be funded regionally. Firstly, and the bulk of the funding across these watersheds are infrastructure projects. And so project applicants who have a completed study can apply for one or the combination of design, construction, or operation and maintenance costs for their project. Secondly, for those who don't yet have a completed feasibility study, who have a project concept, who may not have the full technical capacity to develop their own, they can apply for the Technical Resource Program. This is a program where the county will work with a group of experts to help assist the project concept applicants developing a feasibility study. The last, which is about 5% of the regional funding, is for scientific studies which have a regional focus across the watershed and either look at how we can increase stormwater capture, so increase our water supply, or reduce stormwater or urban runoff pollution, so therefore also increasing the water quality. So the second bucket is the 40%, and that goes to the municipal program. And like in the regional program, this is also allocated proportional to the taxes generated within each city's boundaries. The intent behind this funding is that each local government can address their local stormwater and urban runoff challenges. And therefore they can use their funding for project development, design, construction, or operations and maintenance, so that they are working to ensure they're compliant with their MS4 stormwater permits. So the city of Paramount is in the lower LA River watershed, and the latest municipal funds that were for Paramount in this latest fiscal year was $650,000. So I'm going to give you 3 examples of projects. Again, we've had 3 years of funding. We're entering our 3rd year, my apologies. So we've just funded 2 years of projects so far across the whole region, so across all 9 watersheds. Over 150 projects have been funded. So here's one example. This was funded in 2021, so this was a recent funding cycle. It was awarded to the city of Southgate, and they got $5.4 million for construction and operation maintenance for a new multi-benefit park project. So this park project has integrated dry weather runoff. It has a wetland with an infiltration gallery, and then it has multiple community benefits, including a playground, an educational garden, a food orchard, multi-use pathways, and it was developed with a lot of input from their local community in Southgate. So the second project, this was funded in the first year in 2020, and this is to the city of Long Beach, and it was funded for $9.8 million for the design and construction of a municipal urban stormwater treatment facility. So this facility is going to capture and treat stormwater for it to be then recycled for green space irrigation and for a constructed wetland. This will be irrigating parks and green space along the 170 freeway. So the last project, and this is a project in your city, which just as of last week got approved by the Board of Supervisors for this latest strategic investment plan, and it was awarded $891,000 for the design of an infiltration facility in Spane Park. And please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the word Spane. So this is the location of this park, and funding for the design phase will look at the design of an installation of a regional stormwater and capture and infiltration facility. It'll also look at components including a bias rail, a stream, permeable pavements, bioretention areas within the parking lots and pathways, and the planting of native California landscaping. So this project is connected to the aquifer, and so will augment our groundwater supply. And also part of the project's intent will be to rehabilitate park facilities, as well as, and this must be very exciting, the first public use soccer field in the city. So this is just a larger capture of the project concept as it will be developed. And as you can see on the soccer field underneath it will be the filtration. Also, you can see that the project is linked to the storm drain system.
Tara, I'm sorry, I'm going to interject real quick. I'm sorry, I wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up and some information. This project was developed, or the feasibility for this project was developed years ago. At the time, again, we were conceptualizing using what is the most feasible infiltration project in this particular area. And so we looked at Spane Park. What you see in front of you, though, is a very conceptual look. It's not how it's going to look at the end. We were successful second time around to get design monies to do exactly that, design the capacity of this infiltration project, look at doing outreach in the community to see what the community would like to see. When we looked at this originally, again, it looked at the feasibility, and so it took it took basically the entire area of the park. If the community comes out and says, no, we want to keep the pond area, we can look at options to shrink it but make it deeper. And so there are many options that we need to explore as we proceed with the design phase of the project, but it's not just going to be design, it's going to be design and outreach to the community to see what the project will end up looking like. But yes, we were finally successful. We actually submitted this again the second time around. The first time around, we submitted for design, outreach, and construction, and it was just too much and too large. And so we took another look at it and broke it down into the design phase. And then later, once we finish this, we can go back and say, okay, now that we have a design, we can go back and request monies for construction. So that's how many projects are now looking at doing things, because it's just too large. Many cities want to do a lot of projects, and there's, even though you saw the millions of dollars, it's really not enough for everyone to do these projects. So thank you. Sorry, Tara, I just wanted to interject.
No, thank you. That's very important information to add. Thank you very much for including that. So really just to wrap up, every region, every watershed has a committee who look at all applications every year, and the Figaro sits on the Lower Los Angeles River Watershed Committee. And so my role, I serve the committee to help them solicit and support new projects who are applying for funding every year, get community engagement with these projects. Like what Ms. Figaro said, it's how important that every project gets community engagement through the whole process. And then also just part of my role is doing public education about the overall program and the funding source. So there is the website. It is very comprehensive with the many projects funded in the LA County region to date, as well as my email for anyone who has any questions or would like any follow-up. And I'm also welcome to take any questions now. I don't know, Ms. Figaro, if you'd like to add anything else, the context. I know you've worked very hard on getting this project through, so.
And sorry if I may interject one more time, just want to let the council know, part of Tara's presentation is the outreach component of Measure W, regional projects. And so Tara has asked to come into our Friday night market, set up a booth, provide information to the community on Measure W and what it does. So you'll see her or members of her team at some of our events moving forward.
Hey, Mayor, do you want to do another mic check? Is it?
Check. There we go.
Here you are. You're on.
Just want to say thank you, Tara, for the presentation. And I know it said we just got awarded the funding. I'm sorry, what was the next step then? So we got the funding, now we're going to be into phase.
So basically, the way that it works is we look at projects every year. This is the third cycle. And so we started looking at projects back in May. We reviewed all the projects that move forward into our plan that gets submitted to the County Board of Supervisors for approval, included SPANI for the design.
Right.
So the next step is waiting for the county to draw up the agreement, which I will be submitting to Mr. Kavanaugh for review, and then bringing to council so that we can move forward. Once we have that agreement, then we can begin the work on the design.
Got it. Thank you for that explanation. Thank you, Tara. Any more questions
Thank
now?
you very much for having me.
All right, we'll move on. Next is actually item number 11, award of contract for the air monitoring services.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. For a number of years, the South Coast Air Quality Management District has been conducting air monitoring throughout our community. Then, in December of 2020, they stopped air monitoring due to COVID concerns among their employees. So in spring of 2021, the AQMD informed us at a city council meeting that they would permanently cease air monitoring in Paramount. With that, in June, during the budget adoption, the city council approved $100,000 to hire a consultant to take over this duty of air monitoring. The AQMD then resumed air monitoring in July on a temporary basis, knowing that the city would soon pick up this as a service for our community. So over the last few months, AQMD has been extremely helpful to us with helping us develop specifications for our own air monitoring program. I do want to say a special thanks to Dr. Jason Lowe and Mr. Sumner Wilson at AQMD. Those have been the 2 point persons, two staff members at AQMD that have really been helpful to us. So with that, I'll turn it over to our planning director, Mr. John Carver, who will tell you about the background and our proposed air monitoring program. John?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and council members, this item is an award of contract for air monitoring services. The contract includes air sampling at 5 locations in the city for a period of 1 year. As the council is aware, the AQMD did air monitoring, as John mentioned, at numerous locations throughout the city, beginning in the fall of 2016 and ending in December of 2020. Air monitoring ceased again due to COVID-19 concerns, and the AQMD began limited monitoring again in July of this year, utilizing the city's 5 air monitors. Samples are being taken every 6 days, and the AQMD will end monitoring this month. As John mentioned, with the assistance of the AQMD, a request for proposals was prepared and sent to 5 businesses that offer air monitoring services. These businesses were recommended by the AQMD. Proposals are for testing every 6 days using the city's 5 air monitors. Proposals also include the use of a lab. Proposals also require that a lab be utilized that can detect hexavalent chrome at levels less than 0.06 nanograms. The firm must have knowledge and experience with air monitoring systems and analysis. The firm must have experience in developing air monitoring programs and experience in data analysis and interpretation. The proposals also require that there be an ability to post results to the city's website within 7 days, that the firm communicate immediately to the AQMD and the city if high levels of hexavalent chrome are detected, and that the firm be able to submit raw data to the city within 1 week if requested. We received 3 proposals. The first was from a firm called Air Kinetics, and their proposal was $128,629. T&B Systems was the second bidder that we received a proposal from for $159,877. And the final firm was a company called Alliance, and their proposal was $240,000. These are all, again, for 1 year. We are recommending that the contract be awarded to T&B Systems. There is an additional cost of $5,500 for a meteorological system, which brings the cost to $165,377. While T&B Systems is not the low bidder, Air Kinetics provides testing services to Member Metals and Press Forge, and this could be perceived as a conflict of interest. State law allows consideration of things other than cost when awarding a contract for professional services. Also, the city's purchasing policy allows consideration of factors other than cost when awarding a contract for professional services. Regarding reference checks, the agencies we contacted had only very good and positive things to say about T&B Systems. As John mentioned, there was $100,000 that was budgeted in the FY22 budget for air monitoring services. We, based on the bids that we've received from T&B, we anticipate that we'll spend $124,033 in fiscal year 2022. And we are requesting an appropriation of additional funds in the amount of $24,033 to take us to the end of the fiscal year. And we will budget the remaining amount of $44,344 in the 2023 fiscal year budget. And we are recommending an award of contract to T&B Systems in the amount of $165,377. I'm happy to answer any questions. Also, we have representatives Ken Underwood and David Yoho from T&B Systems in the audience also. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I have a question.
Sure. Thank you, John, for your presentation.
What did you say?
But thanks, John, for the presentation, but go ahead.
Okay,
Councilmember Lemons.
I'll pause so you can thank him.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I was just wondering if we had completed the assessment of passing the cost for this onto the business community and the legality of that. I know it's something that we had asked to be looked into.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Lemons. That question has been proposed before. One of the difficulties of passing a cost like this onto the businesses is that state law requires that there be a nexus or an appropriation of apportionment of how much each business does contribute to, let's say, the pollution that it's designed to prevent. I'm not saying that this would be impossible to do, but what I'm saying the challenge we would have to do is that we would have to ascertain each business to see what proportionate amount of pollution they produce in order to pass on the apportioned amount of cost to them to do that. So it's very challenging to do that, and so that's why most of the time it's borne by the city to accomplish that. Other than that, because we would have to go in and literally do an assessment for every business to see where they are in their pollution contribution, if you will.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was new information on that. I remember that explanation being brought forward along with the fact that there are other types of businesses that weren't considered when we looked at hexavalent chromium before because of the smaller amount that they contribute, but you know, gas stations and dry cleaners and all those type of things I know also, you know, add to that factor, but I didn't know if any further research had been done, you know, that we found a way to be able to pass the cost on.
Yeah, and the way to do that, we would have to basically do an assessment for each one of those businesses and determine to what extent they do have that pollution in order to come up with a formula to assess that would be their apportioned cost to do it. And the reason is that we have to make sure that they're not paying more than what they're contributing to.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have to actually do that work ourselves to each one, and that's an expertise that we would have to have somebody probably assist us on.
Yeah, and I could see it being a monumental task, but I guess the other thing I would ask is, have we explored any kind of blanket innovative way, like, adding an environmental cost fee or anything just across the board? Is there any other city that's, doing something I don't know that any other city pays for air monitors in their community that I'm aware of, so we're probably pioneering, figuring out how to handle this.
We are, in fact, we posed that question to the AQMD, if we are the only ones to do that, and it basically came down to yes. Keep in mind, too, Councilmember Lemons, that the way this program, this air monitoring program is envisioned, that the monitors most likely will not stay in one place. We plan to move them, and that's with the recommendation of AQMD. So as Mr. Kavanaugh said, how do you attribute certain portions to certain businesses
I
if you
get
move
the
them around?
task.
So
Yeah.
that
Right.
complicates it even further, and for that matter. So.
Well, I think for now, the important thing is, we're doing what we need to do. We've got to continue to monitor this situation and not be taken by surprise again. And maybe we just keep our ears open and,
Sure.
if something comes down the pike that somebody hears about and there's a way to do that, then maybe we can take that task on. Thank you. That's the only question I have.
No,
Madam
that's a
Mayor.
great question.
Yeah,
And
and Councilmember Lenz, I think you make a good point, and that doesn't mean that we won't explore that. And John actually said something important too, that it's kind of a moving target because the way these monitors are, and it's hard to ascertain how you attribute to it. That doesn't mean it's impossible. It's something that we would have to probably look at and maybe somehow come up with a formula that is equitable for the businesses too.
Right.
Also, we do receive annually AB 2766 funds directly from the AQMD. Each city within the Air Quality Management District receives that, and that's from businesses that are paying permit fees, penalties, things like that for air pollution. So we get a certain portion of amount. We tend to not spend it all every year. So we do have accumulated funds that we could look at to put forth towards
So
this
we
air
could
monitoring.
pay for this out of that fund?
I was
Would
gonna
that
say,
be possible?
I'm almost for certain we could. I'd have to check with Clyde, and we have to get with AQMD. So that's a possibility if we have any additional funds. For instance, we're using some to purchase electric vehicles, so that goes towards that. There's other things too that we have programmed, but each year I don't believe we spend the full amount of it. So this could be put towards that. It's I would think that AQMD would allow that as an eligible expense. So that's another option as well.
Do you think too, maybe I'm adding to that, since we are the only city that is monitoring, is there a possibility to get a higher percentage back from the AQMD? This type
A
of
higher
fund?
percentage of that funding
Right.
pot?
I mean,
we could
We
always
could
add.
ask, you know what I mean? I mean, since
Sure.
we're the only city doing monitoring at this moment.
Yeah, my guess is that that the proportionate share that you received is codified by law. AB 2766 was
Okay.
the bill that was passed years and years ago. But it doesn't hurt to ask. Sure, and I'm sure AQMD does have grants out there, and maybe they could provide some help to us for that. Sure,
Okay.
we'll ask.
Exploring.
Yep, I think. So this contract's for 1 year, is that what I understood?
Yes.
This is a 1 year, okay.
That was my question.
Do we have any questions?
Go ahead, Elma.
No, that was my question.
Year.
How many year contract?
Okay. I think that was a good idea to go with T&B as opposed to Air Kinetics, based on the fact that there could possibly be that conflict, and I would have definitely raised that conflict. So my question is T&B Systems representing other any forging metal companies in the city of Paramount, or anodizing or metal plating businesses here in Paramount?
No, they don't work for any business in the city of Paramount.
Okay, and is there anything in the contract that would state that we would like it to remain that way?
Yes.
To avoid any conflicts?
That would be in the contract, yes.
Would be or is?
It will be when it's signed,
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you. And then I also wanted to ask T&B Systems if when they're doing this monitoring, their ability to monitor hex chrome, is there going to be any other monitoring from any other of the types of issues that we've had in the air, like nickel, or will it specifically be hex chrome?
Our monitors only measure hex chrome.
Okay. And then moving the monitors, how often do we plan on moving the monitors to actually get a fair representation of the pollution coming out of certain areas? Will it be on a monthly basis, quarterly?
Yeah, we'll be working with the AQMD to come up with a plan on how often to move those. I think it wouldn't be every month, but maybe quarterly or a little bit longer. But we will be working with the AQMD to come up with that plan.
Okay, thank you. Those were my only questions on that.
Thank you, Councilmember Gain. And then maybe when you have that plan, can you come back and present that to
Sure,
us? We can figure
absolutely.
out what the
Yep.
game plan is. That'd be great. All right, you guys. So I think I just entertain a motion and a second on this
Move
item,
the
please.
item Lemons.
Second, Quer Stallings.
We have a motion by Lemons and a second by Quer Stallings. Can I go ahead and get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, moving on to item number 12. We have a resolution number 21031 declaring October 6, 2021 Clean Air Day in the city of Paramount.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Clean Air Day is upon us. And with that, our planning director, John Carver, will handle the item. Mr. Carver?
John, Madam Mayor, and council members. Yes, this item is a resolution in support of Clean Air Day, which is on October 6th. Clean Air Day is a project from the Coalition for Clean Air and is a statewide effort to improve community health and sustainability efforts. This will be the third year that the City Council has recognized Clean Air Day. To advertise Clean Air Day 2021, we will utilize social media and the city's website to encourage things such as taking the Clean Air Day pledge, to report smoking vehicles or strong odors, to set your home air conditioning unit at 78 degrees or higher, to replace your HVAC air filters annually, and to ride your bicycle or walk to do an errand once a week. And these are two numbers. The one on top, 1-800-CUT SMOG, is to report odors, smoke, dust, and other contaminants that aren't related to vehicles. And if you see something related to a vehicle emission, it's 1-800-END-SMOG. And it's recommended you adopt Resolution 21031. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for John? Hearing
Move we
none.
adopt the resolution.
Can I get a second?
Second.
So motion by Lemons and second by Quer Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, we're moving on to comments and committee reports. We will go ahead and start with Councilmember Guillen. Go first, yeah?
So, my committee report was going to be on the Metro Transit Rail coming through Paramount, but I think we got an extensive review of what's going on there. The only other action I'd like our city manager to look into, and my comment is I've gotten a few calls in the last month in regards to a burning smell that is happening between 4 p.m. and 4 a.m. Coming eastbound off of Garfield. I did a little investigative work, as I have tended to do in the past, and there's a welding business right on the same street, and I'm drawing a blank where the CalMet is. There's a metal welding business with no name on it, and I was just wondering if we could look into what they do and their times of operation, because I have a feeling that that's where it's coming from.
Certainly can. So we'll have Adriana Lopez through Code Enforcement. This is, I'm hearing, if I'm not mistaken, Garfield and Pedersen Lane.
Right.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Aguayo.
Okay, so actually, I was fortunate enough to attend the California Contract Cities Summit with my colleagues. It was long. It was a total of 10 different sessions. Some amazing speakers and great information that, we can bring back and help, with just residents and just different things. Ladies Leading the Way in LA, great panel on that. And of course, homeless and mental health, Mayor Olmos, good job moderating that. And it was great. It was great to hear that they did touch and use Paramount as an example of a community that is actively, working with our homeless residents and dealing with, any issues they may have. So sitting there, in the audience, I think, you can't help but be like, okay, like, those are, our homeless residents in our city, and staff is out there taking care of them. So it definitely makes you feel good to see, that they're using you as an example of a success story, really. We can, continue to do that. So that was really great. And geez, if I continue, I have all kinds of stuff written down. We heard from Chief Darrell Osby of the LA Fire, and it's good to see, again, same thing, hearing what they're doing, just across the board with all of our communities. I think sometimes we feel, that they're there. I think sometimes we kind of tend to think that these things just happen, and to hear him, explain, so many just programs and just things that they're doing was really, really great for that. There was one more thing, but I'll stop at that. It had something to do with the end of the conference, and some award that we received. So
I'll leave that to the mayor.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep, you're next.
I also attended the CCCA conference and enjoyed the presentations, especially on SB 9. And my favorite, of course, was the one on homelessness hosted by our mayor, who did such an outstanding job of bringing that information to light. And also very much enjoyed the speaker from Disney about having a vision and sticking to it. Because for me personally, that's how I feel about Paramount. For the last 35 years, we've had a vision and we've stuck to it. And I put us up against Walt any day of the week. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Absolutely. Vice Mayor.
I also attended the Contract Cities conference and really enjoyed it. I was very impressed by the priest that made a presentation, how he's helping some of the gang members in Belmont, in East LA area, and the things they're doing are very positive. I did get kind of touched with a story that he used. He used it as an example. Really touched my heart. I really enjoy the ladies that, it says, ladies leading in the LA area. Mayor Lindsay from Hollywood, Supervisor Janice Hahn, U.S. Assistant Attorney Maria Torres, and Yvonne Yu from Mayor of Montebello?
Monterey Park.
Monterey Park.
Mm-hmm.
And then also got a lot of information from Chair Villanueva, and he shared a lot of information. And also, just like my colleagues have mentioned, received a lot of information about who was, Brenda almost was able to be like the host of
The host.
you were like the
Vanna
host.
White.
Yeah, you were like Vanna White, and lieutenant and a captain shared about the host program that Paramount also has about the homeless and the mental health, and also like my colleague said, Council Member Aguayo, that Chief Darrell also shared about different situations that occur with different fires in different situations. But I was real surprised to know that they also have a youth program. And if you're interested in being a fireman, there's also some programs that you can probably fill out an application. And if you're interested, whether you're going to be a fireman or a firewoman. But really enjoyed it. And thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to toot our horn a little bit, because I think when we did the homeless session, they wanted to talk about Paramount and how Paramount was the first city to be trained on host and met. And like they said, they didn't want to like toot anybody's horn, but I had to say that, you know what, I think Adriana, kudos to you and to Steve. I wanted to say your names out loud, but I know I probably shouldn't or couldn't have, but they did mention City of Paramount and how you guys are just the pilot. You guys are a pilot city, and they're hoping that more cities, they were inviting more cities to get trained on these programs so they can actually do what you guys are doing here. So congratulations to you guys on that. Good job.
Thank you, Mayor.
So speaking about the award, so yeah, actually Contract Cities, this is the second year that Contract Cities actually gives out an award. It's called the John Stanford Todd Award. And what this does is it really showcases collaboration between entities in a city. The first city to receive it was Pico Rivera for year one, but actually City of Paramount did win year two for our collaboration with the Paramount Unified School District. So congratulations to the City of Paramount and Paramount Unified School District for receiving the second annual award for the John Stanford from Contract Cities. So congratulations to staff and to Paramount Unified School District. And that's all I have.
Ready
Yeah,
for
it's
me?
your- yeah, I was
Okay.
like, that's
I wasn't sure. I was waiting. Didn't want to interrupt you again like I did earlier. No. We do have a new full-time employee. She's in the audience with us tonight. She's our new HR manager. Her name is Nicole Lopez. She goes by Nikki. Nikki, why don't you stand up? Nikki started local government as a recreation leader in Buena Park and also in Downey in 2015. And then in Long Beach, she started her full-time career in 2017. While in Long Beach, she worked as an HR analyst in the finance department. She worked on such things as workers' comp claims, labor relations, and a bunch of personnel matters. And Nikki has a degree in business management from Cal State Long Beach. So welcome aboard, Nikki.
Welcome, Nikki.
Welcome.
And then next, I just wanted to make sure that you're aware. I mentioned the vision, mission, values at the last council meeting. If you noticed in your agenda packet tonight, as well as the presentations, we also put down the strategic outcomes for each thing. So how it relates to the overall vision, mission, values that the council has set. It's just to kind of keep us focused and remember what we are up here for. So with that, Mr. Kavanaugh would like to also say a few words about street racing. Mr. Kavanaugh?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor, and members of the council, at the last meeting, if you recall, there was some discussion on the street racing issues that are occurring in the city. Those are chronic issues that are happening, but I am pleased to announce that the Sheriff's Department and the Public Safety Department have been working very diligently over the last couple weeks, in fact, and they have brought to me no fewer than 4 new cases, street racing cases, in which the Sheriff's Department stopped and impounded at least 4 vehicles for various street racing incidents. Those reports have been given to my office, and after looking at those reports, both the Deputy DA and myself have directed that those 4 incidences go to an administrative hearing, which is phase 1 of our ordinance. And the administrative hearing officer makes a determination whether or not the impound was valid with respect to, did the officer have reasonable cause to believe that a violation existed under our ordinance. I'm pleased to tell you that out of those 3 hearings, the hearing officer has ruled in the city's favor. And so the next step will be for me to look at those decisions and the reports one more time and make a determination whether we want to go to forfeiture. Out of those cases, I did get some communication from one of the defendants by their legal counsel, and I explained to the legal counsel how important it is that street racing be mitigated in the city of Paramount. The legal counsel was very, very receptive to that concept, and they are very interested in entering to what is known as a stipulated judgment, which under our ordinance allows us to release the car in exchange for a promise that that car will not be used for street racing. And if it is caught again, we get to actually take that car without any additional hearing or forfeiture. And that's an agreement that we enter. So I just want to let you know that we are busy. And I think we have even 2 more incidents that are coming through. Once this goes through the process, the court process, and through my office, I will probably share with you a PowerPoint presentation on how we did that. So I just want to let you know that we are busy. And two, to toot the city of Paramount's horn, I just got word from our assistant public safety director that a council member from the city of Compton is very excited about our ordinance and would like to have more information and has requested that I call them.
Very good.
So you're doing a great job,
Great. Thank
and
you
we
for that.
thank you for that support.
Absolutely. That's
John?
good news.
John, I would like to add that that the lieutenant also notified me, I believe it was earlier this week, that someone from the Linwood Police Department would also like information about our ordinance.
And also, Madam Mayor, we are conducting additional training in the next couple of weeks, both the Deputy DA and myself, for the deputies on writing reports. So we want to just continue to maintain that training so that we can do the best job.
Right.
Well, congratulations. It reminds me of back in the day when all the cities were calling us over how to start a CSO program and how to get your own station, because we were first in that too in the region. So it's wonderful that you continue to be creative and innovative and push Paramount forward in such a positive way.
Well, thank you, Council, and your support and adoption of the ordinance has been basically a test case, and it's been really, really highly receptive to the cities around it. I think one of the things that we want to try to do is if we can get a regional effort by other cities doing this, it'll be a lot easier because then we'll all be fighting the same problem together with the same type of regulations. And the key is to basically let people in this area, you're not going to be able to get away with street racing. Right. So you through our ordinance has been kind of a beacon, and I think cities are starting to get interested in emulating you. So thank you.
No, thank you for the, and I like the word beacon. You know, is there any way, John, too, that we're able to do some type of press release and the press telegram of some of the efforts and what we've been doing without giving, you know what I mean, just an overall of the.
We certainly can look into that and
Curious.
make sure we adopt the right tone.
Right.
Obviously, 'cause
Absolutely. It's
that's
educational piece
sure.
of what the city's doing.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely, for sure.
All right. Is that all for staff comments?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So with that said, okay, we will go ahead and adjourn our meeting till October 5th of 2021. We will go ahead now and move on to our, I'd like to call to order our successor agency for the Paramount Road Development Agency, September 21st. Can I please get a roll call of council members, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Here.
Councilmember Guillen.
Here.
Councilmember Lemons.
Here.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings.
Here.
Mayor Olmos.
I am here. So we have new business, the resolution. We've already done that. So do I need a motion on that? Yes? All right. Go ahead and entertain a motion, please.
So move, Lemons.
Second for Stallings.
So we have a motion by Lemon, second by Quer Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings.
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right. Our successor agency is adjourned to October 5th, 2021. Have a good evening, everybody.